Now, I've made many videos in the past talking about the fact that SCHD, or the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, is in my opinion the #1 best dividend ETF across the entire market for several different reasons. I've shared with you guys how much certain amounts of money invested long term could potentially turn into when it comes to SCHD, and I've shared with you bits and pieces of this ETF and why I love it. But this video is going to be especially a treat because we're going to go deep on this one. I'm going to break down every single reason, more or less, on why I think this ETF is the #1 best dividend-focused ETF across the entire market and sort of give my arguments. We're going to go through top to bottom on why this ETF is a one-size-fits-all for most dividend investors' portfolios. So especially if you like this ETF, maybe hold on to it, or maybe you've ever thought about it, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this one. So again, if you want to go into a deep dive into SCHD with me, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. My A to Z dividend investing ebook has helped countless dividend investors get started with their journey. And my custom dividend tracker that I'm constantly using here on the channel has also helped so many investors stay on track and allow them to see their dividend income in real time. Well, today I have another treat for you guys. I'm not only going to offer you my A to Z dividend investing ebook and the custom dividend tracker, but also just for a short limited time, I'm going to be adding in my brand new weekly dividend blueprint ebook to show you how you can get started with weekly dividend ETFs and add this into your investing strategy. This offer is not going to last long, so go ahead and click the first link down below in my description, and you're going to get both ebooks and the custom dividend tracker bundle. But like I said, please act fast because this won't be around for long. Now let's get back into the video. Now don't worry guys, I made an entire list on why SCHD is the #1 best dividend focused ETF in my opinion. #1 starting off with the fact that this ETF has absolutely no capped upside. Now the idea of an ETF having a capped upside is definitely relevant, especially these days because there are so many different option focused, income focused ETFs across the market that I personally hold on to, that I personally am also a fan of. But the way these ETFs work a lot of times is they are going to have a capped upside, which could potentially limit the total return long term. Now with SCHD, there's no derivatives involved in it, there's no option overlay, so this ETF, if the underlyings do well, which at least we can see historically they definitely have, this ETF has the potential to grow and grow and grow. Now again, there's lots of other ETFs that don't have a capped upside. This is just one of the many reasons I have that this ETF is the best one size fits all, so let's go into number 2. Number 2, the next reason this ETF is the best is because maybe one of my favorite metrics about it, it has huge dividend growth, or at least it has historically. Now, dividend growth is basically how much in dividends an ETF or stock or anything pays compared to the previous year. Now, SCHD's dividend growth rate on the last trailing 12 months is almost 17%, but longer term, over the last 10 or so years, we're talking 11% per year. Now imagine if you worked a job and every single year you got, let's say, a 3%, a 5%, or an 11% raise. This would significantly change your financial situation long term. But with SCHD, you don't have to work for it. You are literally just sitting around, or at least historically sitting around, and getting paid more and more in dividends long term. Now to be specific, around 10 or so years ago, investors were getting paid around 8 cents, 9 cents per share per quarter. Now just as of recently, we're almost inching close to 30 cents per share per quarter. So investors are getting around 3 times more cash flow from the ETF they bought into around 10 or so years ago. And especially for some of us that do want to hold on to SCHD for say 10 years, 20 years. I mean, for me personally, I plan on never selling my shares. The amount of cash flow we're going to see in 20, 30, 40 years, I mean, only the sky's the limit. But that's far from everything. Also, SCHD does have a long track record, which even though historical performance does not indicate future performance, the fact that SCHD has been trading for around 14 or so years and has a total return of around 400% almost gives you an idea of how this ETF hopefully most likely will keep doing in the future. Now what's crazy is that every single time there was a dip historically, SCHD always recovered and made new all-time highs. And just as of recently, this ETF, in my humble opinion, is still on sale for long-term investors, but we're gonna have to wait and see what happens with the market next. Now this is also especially relevant because there's so many newer ETFs across the market these days, so as far as a long track record goes, there's not really that many long track records to look at when it comes to a lot of the popular names. But with SCHD, there definitely is a long track record, and I hope that it keeps doing well like it has historically. The next reason this ETF is the best is because it's also cheap to hold on to. Now this is especially also relevant because so many ETFs that you guys as well as I hold in my portfolio these days, especially option income strategy ETFs, they are not very cheap to hold on to. And although I don't really have a problem with ETFs charging an arm and a leg for an expense ratio, if I think it's worth the expense ratio, SCHD for that matter almost charges nothing. You're getting exposure to a high quality ETF for the price of just 0.06%. Now, what exactly are you getting exposure to by buying into SCHD? You're getting all the stuff we talked about already, but you're also getting a strong methodology. Now, we're not going to go super deep into SCHD's methodology, but basically the way that stocks either enter or exit the underlying index, which is the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index, is that stocks have to pass multiple different screenings, which makes it sort of systematic and very hard for stocks to even become a part of it. Now, if you guys want to see me go super deep into the methodology of SCHD, I'm very happy to do so, just comment down below. But basically, you're getting exposure to a high quality strategy that at least since inception has done pretty well. The next reason SCHD is the best in my opinion is that there is a good starting yield when it comes to this ETF. Now with SCHD, are you getting exposure to a massive high starting yield, something that's going to deliver a massive amount of cash flow right from day one? Absolutely not, but you are getting around a 4% starting yield more or less that, like I shared with you guys, has only been growing since inception. So 4% yield is not bad whatsoever, especially when you're getting everything else that this ETF offers, which one being growth potential too. The next thing SCHD offers and why I think it is the best is that there is a great amount of diversification. Now, even though SCHD's top holdings aren't necessarily my favorite across the market, some of these names I like more than others. This ETF does have around 100 different stocks inside of it. So for the small price of 0.06%, you're getting exposure to around 100 different stocks that, like I mentioned, all made it through multiple different screenings, which at least that counts for something. Now, diversification is very important to me. I don't want to place all my eggs in one basket. So when it comes to SCHD, there is also a nice amount of diversification right from day one, like I said. The next reason this ETF is the best is that there's a lot of upside growth. Now, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but just as far as price return goes, this ETF over the last 13-14 years is up over 200%. So even though a lot of us investors are sort of buying into this ETF for the dividend long term and the dividend growth, the ETF also has grown a lot over time, which like I mentioned earlier, as of right now, it is off from the all-time highs, so could be a good time to add it to your watch list. Another reason this ETF is the best is that it's tax friendly. It says right here on the product page, a straightforward low-cost fund offering potential tax efficiency. Now, I'm not going to get super deep into how all the different ETFs across the market are taxed, and maybe we can save that for a different video, but SCHD, relatively speaking, compared to a lot of other dividend-focused ETFs, again, just generally speaking, is going to be potentially very tax efficient. Now, the next reason, as if these aren't already enough reasons to at least look into the ETF, this ETF is a compounder. I've shared with you guys on plenty of videos in the past how just a relatively small amount of money, say $10,000 invested, $5,000 annually from there, invested over 30 years based off of SCHD's current numbers, how just that small amount of money could potentially end up with millions and millions of dollars, again, depending on what happens in the future with annual dividend increases, etc. Now, by no means is SCHD the only ETF across the market that can compound a relatively small portfolio into a massive one, but it also, again, just has that going for it. Now, the last reason that this ETF is the best in my opinion is that the ETF is a sleep well night ETF. I, of course, can't speak for every investor out there, but at least for me in my long-term portfolio, I worry more and less about certain positions long-term, but SCHD, for instance, is never an ETF that I worry about. If the market's red, if the market's green, it's sort of a set it and forget ETF, which I love. So there we have it, guys, a simple video of me explaining all the reasons behind why I think SCHD is the #1 best dividend-focused ETF across the entire market. Now, there's also tons of other ETFs that are also amazing. I talk about them all the time on my channel, but again, if I were only to be able to pick one, it would be this ETF by a mile. Now, before I go, I do have a question for you guys down below. As of right now, how many shares of this ETF do you currently hold in your portfolio? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.